I have, in 30 years of video gaming, I have never seen nor heard as much conjecture, innuendo, and bullshit as I'm currently seeing regarding the release of the Xbox One and the PS4. First of all, what you need to understand, the real problem is that video gaming is no longer the cutthroat industry that it used to be in the 80s and the 90s. It's no longer about Sega and Nintendo rushing the better technology out to the market and rushing better games out and the consumer being the winner. No longer is it that. What it is now is a bunch of corporate pieces of shit sitting around in suits trying to figure out how they can con more money out of these ADHD retards whose dicks get hard the second they hear that a new Halo game is coming out, or that Call of Duty, or I should say Call of Booty Black Cocks Part 3 is coming out. At this point, you're dealing with people who are sitting in boardrooms who are looking at charts right now, trying to figure out the best way to sell you a system and then suck as much money out of your asshole as possible. What they're trying to figure out is what colors do they need for the game boxes in order to make them look violent enough to sell them to dumbass kids. They're trying to figure out how violent the gameplay has to be in order to make people talk about it and get school kids ready to buy it or get their parents to go to the stores and get it for them despite the fact it's an M-rated game. They're trying to figure out what's the most effective way to release a substandard, unfinished product and then get your dumbass to go and buy a card for points so that you can buy downloadable content and spend 30% more to buy the rest of the game that you should have gotten in the first place. We are dealing with high-tech thievery. Working along with these corporate assholes is Walmart, Best Buy, and especially GameStop. These people not only want to take every dime out of your pocket, but on top of that, they're conspiring together to make sure that you can't even trade in your used games and use your used games at a friend's house. Microsoft was doing that basically to attract developers to build their exclusive games. You see, the real problem is piracy. My cousin has shown me on a computer how you can download entire games without paying for them, and you can be up and running top-notch games like Arma 3 on your PC in no time, or Call of Duty or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, developers don't want to develop in an environment where they're not going to see as much royalty off of their games as possible. I understand that. But the real problem is that the piracy has completely killed the system. The game sharing is just destroying the system. So they're finding as many ways as possible to recoup those losses. They're trying to figure out how they can control those losses and how they can make sure they recoup them. Microsoft, I don't know what they were thinking when they came out and started, telling people that they'd have to have their system always on and they'd have to not be able to use used games. That was just completely stupid. But, all these people who are PS or PlayStation fanboys, the thing about it is they always like to brag about how PlayStation has a free network. Unfortunately, PlayStation's network sucks. I mean, they just got through a period where they were giving away their fucking information and people getting their credit card numbers. And then on top of that, there was an entire time period where PlayStation's network was blacked out. Now, yes, Xbox Live has experienced these, but let me tell you something. I've been with them for 5 years, and even though I've paid a couple $100s, I look back and I enjoyed every moment that I had that service. Because the beautiful thing about paying for a service is that it keeps these little ADHD retards off of the service if their parents aren't willing to spend the money. It's one thing for their grandparents to go out and buy them a PlayStation. It's another thing for somebody to make annual payments on a credit card to keep them playing. They should be reading books, but they're not, because their parents, really just buy them this stuff to keep them out of their face. I really hate to digress, but for anybody to actually believe that either system is winning, quote-unquote winning a console war right now when neither of them has been released, is as asinine as believing that there's any difference between them, or and if you take it to a different level, that there's any difference between the very few choices that we're given, such as, let's look at our political parties, Republicans versus Democrats. Either way, somebody's getting your vote. Either way, they're both doing a shitty job. Now, basically, if you look at sales figures, both the Xbox 360 and the PS3 have sold over 77 million units. Neither system is winning. You can say the PlayStation has a lead, but that lead is only for a very short time until the next season of buying goes around. Whether it's Christmas or some major holiday where people feel necessary to buy kids gifts that they don't deserve. But simply put, neither one of these systems is actually winning anything. You'll know a system wins if it shuts another company's doors down and they no longer can afford to make systems. The perfect example of that is Sega. Thus far, the only game that I'm interested in is Battlefield 4. You see, even while I watch these trailers, Halo 5, that's absolutely fucking ridiculous. But Assassin's Creed, all it basically looks like is it's the same gameplay, but it's a more dynamic environment with more things going on. Yeah, that's really cool. And there's a lot of titles that I want to see get made. And perhaps developers will make them once they have more memory and they have more flexibility with the system. So, I'm sure the future of these games looks good, but most PC users know that, you spend better money on a PC and you get far superior graphics and you get far superior gameplay and flexibility. But what really needs to happen is these developers need to focus on gameplay rather than just focusing on story, cinematics, effects. They need to focus on gameplay. The mere fact that I can take kids today, show them Counter-Strike on a regular old Pentium 2 or Pentium 3 computer, and that they are absolutely excited about Counter-Strike instead of Call of Duty, shows that it doesn't necessarily have to be cutting-edge graphics that make a game. Gameplay is everything. A simple game with great gameplay, like Angry Birds, can be a better game than a multi-budget first-person shooter that they keep remaking every year. And what's even funnier is, the desire for the exclusives. First of all, there's no developers out there that want to make exclusives. Developers are interested in making as much money as they can possibly make, and they're not going to do that by selling a game on just one system. Perfect example, you take the God of War sales and you compare them to Call of Duty sales. Now, the Call of Duty makers make their game for everything, even the Wii, if they possibly can. They're not interested in just making for one system and shutting out all those spenders who would be buying their game for their other system. They want to make as much money as possible. So, similar to the 360 and the PS3, I'm very certain that the future of the PS4 and the Xbox One is going to look just like it does now. You'll have a lot of exclusives early on, maybe even throughout the middle of the lifespan of the systems. But sure enough, later on in their lifespan, those systems are going to be sharing the same titles. Call of Duty will come out on PS4 and Xbox One. Halo won't, obviously. Metal Gear Solid might, because the only reason why they said Metal Gear Solid wasn't on the Xbox 360 is because Metal Gear Solid was on Blu-ray discs when it was put out for PS3. But a lot of these games are going to be shared between the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. And in addition to sharing on the consoles, you can be certain that the PC is going to see a lot of these games too. Because now you're going to have people with PCs powerful enough to rival the technology you'd find in either of the consoles. So my thing is, does it really matter what system you get? Now, yes, I like Xbox Live way more than I like PS Online. But still, does it even matter? It's like no matter what system you get, you're going to end up basically playing the same games, or you're going to end up playing games that are similar to the exclusives that you thought you bought the system to get.